So what's one belief you had to unlearn to become who you are today?
Unlearn that money doesn't grow on trees.
So what's the best advice you've ever received?
To give your employees or peers, give others more of their share of the credit when things go well and less of their share of the blame when things go badly.
Okay, what habit has had the biggest impact on your life?
I would say mornings, first thing in the morning.
Welcome to I'm Up, He Sees Me, I'm Down. Conversations on leadership, faith, and resilience with Mike Turner. This show is proudly sponsored by Alamo Tech and Mission Solution Partners.
Welcome to another episode of I'm Up, He Sees Me, I'm Down. I'm Mike Turner. Today we're with Nicole Kernahan, is a TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and high-performance coach who helps entrepreneurs, founders, and growth-driven leaders break through internal limitations and create meaningful success rooted in alignment, clarity, and purpose. Her work focuses on the relationship between mindset, identity, beliefs, language, and performance, especially for high achievers who outwardly appear successful but internally feel stuck, disconnected, or even overwhelmed. Nicole's path into transformational coaching became deeply personal after a multiple sclerosis diagnosis in 2003, which left her partially paralyzed. Through years of studying mindset, performance psychology, positive psychology, and the mind-body connection, she rebuilt her health and has remained symptom-free for more than 20 years. Today, as a partner at Elevated Worldwide, Nicole helps leaders and entrepreneurs develop the internal resilience awareness and a perspective needed to navigate change, lead authentically, and create lives rooted in what she calls audacious joy. Welcome to the show. That was a mouthful, but I wanted to get it all out, and I wanted my audience to really hear your journey a little bit. So thank you for coming on my show, Nicole, and being here as a guest.
Well, thank you so much for having me. That was a very generous and humbling introduction. So thank you.
Yeah. No, and if anything, it helps our audience understand what we're about to deep dive into a little bit. So I think that's an incredible journey that you have. And let's take it back a little bit. Let's start at the beginning a little bit. Normally I would say, hey, let's start with where you came from, how all that kind of stuff. And I do want to give you that opportunity. So if there's anything there that's relevant, I would love to do that. But the meat of this is really in that internal pull. But let's start there. Where are you podcasting from?
Well, I'm in Canada actually.
Okay,
So I'm
okay.
just outside Toronto, Canada, and I've been here my whole life, like within a couple of hours of here. But I do a lot of business in the U.S. So,
Okay.
yep.
Yeah. So you cross that border on a regular basis. Yeah. Good. I always wanted to make sure I always let people know where we're kind of coming from. So
Canadian.
Canadian. Love it. Love our Canadian neighbors. Okay. So the internal pull. So Nicole, one thing that stood out during our pre-interview was this idea that sometimes life starts calling us toward a different direction before we fully understand why. When did you first realize that your old life no longer fit who you were becoming?
Well, when I look back on my life, and I think this happens to a lot of people, there are many signs along the way that we often ignore or we push down, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I think I was actually quite young when I realized I had this desire to serve at a high level. I had this desire to be Supergirl. So I was like 10 years old, and I would jump off the side of my bed, literally praying to be able to fly so I could go save the world. Like I genuinely remember the feeling of belief of this is what I'm made for. And then life happens. You grow up, you go to school, you find out all the social norms of you get a degree and then you get a job and then you get a job that fits your degree. And then other people do the same thing. And then you get promoted if you want and try to go again. And you just kind of get into this routine. So it was actually, so I kind of just followed the flow. I followed the flow most people do, right? A leads to B, B leads to C, C leads to D. You hear all the social idealisms.
Right.
I refer to them as social idealisms, which you don't even consciously realize you're following. You just think this is what everyone does. It's almost like you need to get snapped out of it for a second to realize, hey, wait a minute, does it have to be that way? So my childhood was the introduction. but I didn't really.
Conformity. Yep.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
grew up into conforming. When I had my MS episode, that was also a time that could have been, and it was a wake up call for how I see the world, but
Right.
it didn't pivot my career yet.
Yeah.
It was
It probably changed your mindset a little bit that you're not invincible.
100%.
Yeah, because a lot of us go through some health in our 20s and go, well, wait a minute. I mean, I really can break a bone. I mean, I really can't jump off of a roof.
Mhm.
Wait a minute. Yeah, but continue, please.
Well, it changed my life in terms of how I see things. It changed my life until how I experienced joy, and we'll definitely talk a lot about that today. So
Mhm.
it was a point that shifted my identity,
Yeah.
but not specifically enough to break the paradigm of social idealisms. I still kept following the same career for 10 more years.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's when I pivoted and got into, entrepreneurship and following my dreams and stepping into who I truly believed to be in my life purpose and things like that.
So was it just you woke up one morning and said, I'm not feeling the joy anymore. I'm not feeling what I need to feel. Or did this, over time, did it just kind of tear at you? Which way? Because I've seen it both ways.
Yep. Mine was the second one.
Okay.
It was this gnawing inside for years and years and years. Having had the couple, especially my MS experience was a profound wake up call to knowing I'm not invincible, to knowing that like the meaning of life changed for me and I was living more joyfully. But my parents were entrepreneurs and they experienced a life that I was like, ooh, I want to live that life. That seems like a dream life. They have flexibility of time. I didn't want the business that they were in, but I liked that they left both of their previous careers and they started businesses and they ran them for 35 years. They've retired since. So I did have an image of what it could look like to break off and kind of follow something that's more your own passion. That's not the norm.
Right.
And so that's why I would say the second one, it was like this gnawing inside. I was in corporate following the protocol, the habit, the social idealism. I went to school for business. I should work in this kind of job. I should get a promotion because this is what everyone does.
This is how much I should make.
My parents, I should make this income and then I should want to make the next level of income and then I should want to get the promotion. Even if I don't actually want that job, that's what I should want. And I had that inside of me for years that I was like, oh, I think there's a little bit more. But I didn't actually what I didn't do was hate my job. So some people will have like, they really dislike, feel totally unsatisfied in their career choice or their job or whatever it is. And then it's like breaking point, enough's enough. I or a wake up call. I was like, I kind of like what I do, but I don't love it. It's not my purpose. And I have this gnawing inside. And then it was about 10 years in that, you know what, I'll have to ponder. What was the straw that broke the camel's back that was like, today's the day? Because I had been thinking about it for years. I'd been planning it for years, kind of in the back of my mind. And then there was a point in time where I pulled the trigger.
And, for me, it was interesting because I woke up one morning. I was on the other side of that. I woke up one morning and just was like, I'm going to let my boss know that I'm going to give notice. I just can't do it. And I didn't have anything planned. I had no, obviously no lined up job because that's what I was trying to get away from. And I didn't have any, idea of a business or what I wanted to do. No business plan. I didn't have funding lined up. Nothing. It was just me waking up going, I am lacking the joy. And interesting enough for me, I loved my job too. I loved what I did, and I felt real purpose in it, but there just was something about the direction I was going and had kind of accumulated to a point where I thought, I just can't see myself getting up tomorrow morning doing the same thing I did today and then doing that again for another year or 5 years. It got to a point where I couldn't see myself doing that even 6 months longer. And that's when it was time. And so have you found that the fear often disguises itself as logic? Is it like, because we're all pushing that to the point where we need to do something, but a lot of people, they go, I got to be successful in this. I got to pay for, all my kids to go to school or college or, food on the table. So what is it? What is it that keeps people from making that switch?
For sure, one of the things that we have now that I've been in this industry in coaching and positive psychology and leadership for the past 10 years after I left, Well, actually, I started a different business for a few years and then I got into this industry. Long story.
Yeah.
So, what I have definitely found is fear is one of, not the only. Absolutely. And I love how you worded that, right? Fear
Yeah.
disguised as logic. I think
Yeah.
Jim Carrey used a line kind of like that, right? Like where the idea of they use logic, they use fear disguised as logic.
That's logic.
You
Yeah.
can absolutely logic your way very easily to why I should keep this job for the rest of my
Right.
life, why I need to put my kids into school and put food on the table. And guess what happens? When you start to tell people, hey, I'm thinking about leaving this career, I'm thinking about starting my own business, or I'm thinking about following this passion, and it's a big turn from what I'm
Oh, no, yeah, I can't do that. What
most
about this? What about
yeah.
that?
People, most of the people in your life, even if they're well intended, often when they're well intended, will say
Yeah.
that is a bad idea. What are you gonna how
Yeah.
are you gonna make money? How are you gonna put your kids through school? How are you going to feed the
Yeah.
family? Like, how are
Right.
you going to do all the things that you're supposed to do, man or woman? Like whatever situation you're in, it's a
Yeah.
standard nowadays, right? Like it's there's going to be a lot of other people, and what I like to refer to that is often they put their limits on you unintentionally.
Yeah.
They
They
can't
have all the best intentions. They really do.
absolutely.
But they fear for you because they put themselves in that place going, oh no, I could never do that.
Mhm.
Like they're logically identifying that fear and going, yeah, that's just, no, I can't do that. And so you can't do that.
Yeah.
So
So fear is
yeah,
a
and I
huge
see that.
one for sure.
Yeah.
The other one I would say, just on this idea of what holds people back, another big one is desire. Like they don't want it badly enough.
Yeah.
They
That's
don't
true.
want it enough to be willing to take the risk, because there's risk. You
Yeah.
can't avoid risk. There's
Yeah.
risk in staying and there's risk in leaving. The
Yep.
risk in staying is that you'll never achieve your dreams. You'll never lead by example if you want your children to chase their dreams, but you don't chase yours. That's
Yeah.
right. But that's the risk in staying. But the risk in leaving, this is specifically if you're making a pivot, like we talked about.
Yeah. Yeah.
The risk in leaving is all the risks that come with starting
Right.
something new.
Right. Change, right? There's inevitable risk in change. Like change is hard, and then depending, it's the unknown, right? That's really what it comes down to.
Mhm.
So why do you think so many people ignore those? Well, let me go back, because I think we talked about this, and I didn't want to lose this point, but we talked about these internal signals that start telling somebody you need that internal pull, right? It's what we call this. Why do you think so many people ignore those internal signals?
Part of it is societal programming. And
Okay.
we're not taught how to trust our intuition for the most part.
Right.
So we have, and so there's two parts of your mind, right? There's the conscious mind and your subconscious mind. Your conscious mind only controls about 5% of your thoughts, actions, and results. The subconscious controls about 95 approximately percent. And your subconscious mind is where your intuition would, come from, where your deeper beliefs, your self-image, your identity, where all these things come from. And if your subconscious has been programmed to be safe, follow the rules, go through this, like it's so strong. That's why you can drive home and not know how you got there, because
Yeah.
you weren't consciously driving, you were subconsciously driving yourself. So their people's subconscious is what's driving them. And if they don't, that's why I like to snap my fingers. If you don't snap out of it, they're unconsciously ignoring those pulls. They're not even aware of them. They're there. They're there. Everyone gets nudges,
Right.
but they're not. No, they literally don't see them half the time. And then once they do start to see them, then if hopefully
Right.
they do sometimes start noticing them, or start to feel that internal pull like you described
Yeah.
it, then the logic kicks back in and says, nope, never mind, that would be silly. Nope, that would be not smart.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I'm not good enough. It's too risky.
Well, the neurological side of it, right? The doctors that talk about brains and all that, they talk about roots in your brain, and these little roots that get created at a very young age, and the deeper they get, and it's really hard. If you ever tried riding a bike through the woods or anything, and you hit some of these trails that have been rode a lot, you get these little spots where they're really hard, like you're in the root, and try to get out of that root and create your own path is nearly impossible. And so that's what you should kind of think of as these habits formed, these subconscious things that are going through your life. Those are those roots in your brain, and you need to create new things. And I think, and this is just a theory, but I think this is also why a lot of people, that have something traumatic happen in their life and they need to recreate themselves a little bit, or something happens, they're creating new roots. They're actually, because the old one's now broke and things have changed in your life or whatever, and you're now need to recreate that. So it's a very interesting topic on that. And I'm probably not the right person to speak on it, but I found that very fascinating, that we have these subconscious things in our brain and just things going on, and they can scientifically prove these little, electrical signals that have been ingrained and created.
Yeah,
So,
neural pathways.
yes,
And
exactly.
it's interesting because I think it was Jack Canfield. It was a couple of researchers, or a couple of individuals who had referenced research that said that by the time a child is 17 years old, they've heard the words "No, you can't" an average of 150,000 times, and they've heard the words "Yes, you can" an average of 5,000 times.
Yes.
That's 30 no's for every one yes. And that's a neural pathway, right? That is,
that's
no, you can't.
no,
No, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't. Yes, you can. No, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't. No, you can't. Well-meaning adults, it's dangerous. It's not safe. It's sometimes, and I've spoken to several who admittedly just say no, you can't by default. They're like, I don't even know what you asked for, but the answer is no. So
exactly. Yeah.
We got to work on ourselves as well as how we're influencing others. But that child who grows up and now they're 30, 40, 50, their automatic default is no, I can't. It's not.
It reminds me of my wife. She's mentioned that we have a granddaughter. She's 2 now, and so really, talkative, a little over 2. And we call her a princess, and she corrected us. She said, "No, I'm not a princess. I'm a queen." So so it just let her know she's beautiful. She's awesome. She can do anything. Those are those positive affirmations that you give to a child to try to offset the thousands of no's you've told them.
Yep.
So
100%.
Yeah,
it really does make a big difference. And I wanted to actually acknowledge when you commented about someone who has a traumatic accident or something traumatic happens to them, because there's 2 primary ways that you do rewire that subconscious, that you do put those neural pathways. Is one is through what one of my mentors originally called an emotional impact. So one of the ways to rewire your brain in an instant is typically traumatic. It could be an amazing positive thing like winning the lottery, but most of the time it's a negative thing, and it often happens to you, like my MS episode, where you literally wake up and your life is different. You see the world differently. You see yourself differently, whether it happened to you or whether it happened to someone else. Like if you lost a loved one or something else, it doesn't have to be your own self physically, but that is one way that you change your neural pathways, but that often leads to a negative pattern. Often people go into the worst case scenario, it is unfortunate that those incidents often rewire your subconscious to fear and worry and doubt.
Right.
And then the second way to rewire it is second most common effective way is through constant spaced repetition of a new thought. And so
replace it with something positive, something.
It's like it takes repetition and emotion over time. Like you can't just do it eat salad on Saturday and then be healthy. Like it's kind of like building a habit of new positive thoughts.
Yeah, this is also why when you're in a major car accident and you get back into a car, even if you're just a passenger, you are like shell shocked. You want any car that comes up to the side of you, any car that's in an intersection, you're like, they're not going to stop. Well, you just are completely freaked out. And it takes a very long time for you to course correct that. So I have to explain that sometimes as examples, because I think it helps resonate with our audience a little bit as to, I felt that. I know what that means.
Absolutely.
And go that route. So, so why do you, so let's pivot back a little bit, because I want to talk on this. You've spoken about joy being different from happiness. And in our pre-interview, we talked a little bit about that. So what's the distinction between joy and happiness?
Yes, I wrote a book, Audacious Joy.
There you go. Yeah.
Reference in it. So this is a very meaningful and personal topic to me. The way that I define the difference between happiness and joy is that happiness is based on circumstance. It's more of a temporary feeling that when something good happens and you feel happy, and that's okay. It's good to feel happy when something good happens. It is mostly reactive and based on circumstance. Joy, on the other hand, is not related to your circumstance. It comes from within, and it's a deeper state. I would probably call it a deeper state where you can feel joy. And there's different ways that joy shows up. It's not always bubbly and upbeat, joyful. Like,
Okay.
it could be peace and calm. But this experience of joy is more like an embodied state that you can feel regardless of your circumstance. It's not attached to an external. So happiness is more like when something happens to you. Joy it awakens within you. It's something that comes from inside out instead of from the outside in.
That's exactly. It reminds me of something, and I'll throw this at you a little bit because I need some clarity on this. So this happened to me a lot. I used to say this is intelligent people. This happens to a lot. It's this daydreaming thing that happens where you just kind of in this state where you're there, but you're not there. It's almost like when you're driving and you just get home, but it's kind of a little bit different. But my point is that the feeling that you feel when you're in that state is a real strong, peaceful, joyful feeling. And if you're in it long enough, you can feel that. Can you speak on that? Because I really don't know what that is, but it's happened to me through my course of my life. Less now, but sometimes even earlier when I was younger. And I see it happen to my granddaughter too. She's Bobby, I want to say she's probably a year now. Like my other granddaughter, I have two. And she does that from time to time. She daydreams. She's just kind of like, eyes are open, but she's just not, and I can relate to it. I know what she's doing because she's just kind of there. But can you speak to that any?
Absolutely. And it's actually really cool, Mike, that you as an adult are aware that you have that experience sometimes, because a lot of the times as an adult, we start to push that down, push that down, push that down.
Okay.
And literally, we all have the ability to tap into our imagination and to dream and to tap into that feeling. I'll call it tap into, like, be present enough to get into that feeling. It is so much easier for children because they haven't had all the programming yet that has brought in all the logic and had them kind of shut down. So it's their imagination. It's a tool you have. We all have the ability to use our imagination. Most adults use their imagination for the worst case scenario, and they imagine all the worst things that could happen, and that doesn't feel good. It's actually not very common. I teach this often to have someone sit down, pause for a minute, put all your things away, maybe outside in nature, and allow yourself. You have to allow yourself to
you do
use your imagination for best case scenario. To what do you even remember what you want? 9 out of 10 people, when I ask, okay, well, what's your goal? Like, I don't know. I'd like to do a little better than I did last year. Like, most people most adults don't allow themselves to dream unless they do. And so they forget how to tap into that and how to allow them. When you said the emotion, I just want to make sure I touch on this, because you can consciously just say, okay, I'll just make this conscious picture in my mind. That's nice, but that's not the feeling. That's not, you have to be able to actually allow yourself to dream, use your imagination to dream about what you want, and believe that it's possible. Once you can say, I believe that this is at least possible, you don't have to say, I believe 100%. I just have to believe more than 50% that there's a chance that this could possibly be possible for me in my life. Then your heart can start to flutter a little bit. You're like, oh, well, this feels exciting.
For me, it's interesting because I don't necessarily think of anything. It's just completely nothing that I'm really thinking of. I mean, it's just a calm state of nothing, right? But I'm in it and I don't want to leave it. That's the thing. So I'm kind of in it and I'm like, okay, I'm in this state. I want to stay here, and it's really nice. And then I get interrupted by my wife. So I'm like, hey, click, you there? That kind of stuff. But it doesn't, I can't control it. I haven't been able to ever control it. It just kind of happens when it happened. And I never talked about it until I started interviewing other people, and they come up with names of it, like it's your theta state or whatever. And I just started, okay. Yeah. So now I'm more open about it.
Yeah, no, definitely it'd be a brainwave state, like a meditative state.
Yeah. Okay.
The power of now, Eckhart Tolle would, being just fully present in this moment. You're not thinking about the past, and you're not fearful about the future. You're just here right now in the present moment. And it's a beautiful thing. So what I was describing was more unintentional effort based to get
Yeah,
into that
right, into that, right.
imagination
Yeah.
and presence.
And I think that, yeah, and so I just want to tie the two together because I don't know if they're separate or if they're together, but I just wanted to say, hey, this is an experience that I had, and I thought it was is relevant here.
Oh, it's so good. People
Yeah.
should never say should. Let me detract this can still be recording, but I'm going to remove that word and choose again. It would be really beneficial if more people took the time to try to stop their thoughts, because you're
Yeah.
just experiencing that naturally in those
Yeah.
moments. It is,
Right.
we live in a society where people are going from the moment they wake up until the moment their head is the pillow. The only time that they're not thinking is when they're unconscious and they're sleeping. And
Right.
so, like, because now there's social media. If you did have a moment of silence, people are checking social media and YouTube. And so you literally stop yourself from having any moments of kind of allowing yourself to just be present. And so I love that you have that experience, because that it is something that anyone is capable of doing. But we live in a society right now that we make it very difficult because there's so much technology, so many options, so many things to get done on the task list, business, personal. So
Well, and that leads me to my next question, because I think this is, we're talking about joy and versus happiness, and so why do some people actually, they maintain hope and joy through adversity, while others like completely collapse? Why is the difference?
We all were born with the perspective of hope and abundance and joy and optimism and courage. And did I say persistence? Right? Think of your 2-year-old niece, and we're all born with the perspective of abundance, the positive side that you just talked about. It is learned through life experience, where some people there may be some components of your natural state of who you are. Like there's some of that won't eliminate any parts of just your natural personality. Most of that perspective of whether you slip into best case scenario and you can maintain hope and remain calm in adversity, or you slip into worst case scenario and fear and panic and overwhelm, most of that is learned is passed down from generation to generation by well-meaning adults. I think they say, for every 10,000 babies who are born perfect with perfect opportunity to see the world as best as it is and all the opportunity that exists, and 999 out of every 1,000 are swiftly and inadvertently de-geniusized by adults. They're born a genius, but they're inadvertently programmed to, no, that's not possible. No, that's dangerous. No, that's fearful. Kind of that no, you can't line. Yeah. So most of it is programmed into us before the age of 8. Most of your beliefs today were all formed before the age of 8. And so, you're not, it's not, this is actually one of the things I primarily teach, is how to shift from lack to abundance. And it will take longer than this conversation today, but there are ways and means that you can retrain yourself to shift more into the best case scenario, to find more peace and calm. And it's part of the tool is through gratitude, right? Yeah. But just so that no one listening thinks, oh my gosh, I was programmed and it's subconscious, and I guess I have no hope that I can get out of my no hopelessness, my hopelessness. There is always hope. And there are ways and tools to retrain your subconscious to more naturally see things on the positive side and remain calm. And I hear that literally every day when the work I do, and just with people like that, you start to hear people say, oh my gosh, my wife noticed how much more calm I was and how I didn't get angry that time. And look at that. You can reprogram.
That must be some of the most amazing and fulfilling work, is being able to see other people really make such big improvements and stuff. It's just got to be amazing.
That's 100%. And I just know for every one person who starts to shift their perspective and reprograms their subconscious, they start to live with more gratitude and peace and calm and understanding and empathy and hope. That now is an adult who's now programming all the people in their life with that perspective. Like the ripple effect is huge. We're changing.
I didn't even think about that, but absolutely. The X factor on that is through the roof, because for sure. Because once you change your perspective, you wouldn't want to go back to anything else. Like having an open mind, being, positive about life, feeling that joy on a regular basis, you just don't want anything else. Like that's what you want to work towards. And you want to spread that. Yeah. So okay, so let's talk about this in the sense of leadership, and let's talk about it in the sense of business and the high achievers. So why do high achievers still feel stuck even after becoming successful?
Hmm. I see this often, and I actually will share just like a few days ago.
Okay.
I'm getting my own self. I teach this, and it happened to me. I'm getting a new car, and it's a higher end car than the one I currently have. And all of a sudden, and I was talking to a friend, and I'm like, this is meaningful to me. It's time. Like I feel confident, but I just if no one sees it, I feel very confident. But if
Yeah.
now all of a sudden I felt like I wouldn't want someone else to see that I have this nice car, and they feel worse because they don't have it, or to feel judged.
Right.
And my friend was like, I can't even believe you have those thoughts. Like you're doing great. You're successful. You're doing well. You teach psychology, and this is the type of thing. It happened for that minute, like a few days ago, and I caught it. And she noticed it, and I caught it, and I said, "Wow, like isn't it interesting how as you get, no matter what level you're at." And I
Right.
had a friend of mine who coaches multi-billionaire business owners and really
Mhm.
really high level leadership beyond my level of leadership, and he said like the challenges and the mental concerns that a billionaire business leader has are things you currently just can't comprehend if you're not at that level. And
Right.
so point of this is no matter what level you're at, you have new fears. You have fears of what people think, fears of why are they my friend because they like me or because they think I have money. Like you end up having all these limited thoughts and fears and beliefs. No matter what level you're at, just get to the next level, and then you have the new level of thoughts of fear and worry.
It's
Which
it's
also,
almost like you're saying an empathetic imposter syndrome.
it's
Uh, it,
absolutely it's
yeah,
impossible.
it's because you were like saying, well, I don't, I'm feeling, I don't want other people to have a certain way of feeling because I have something nice, and then you're also it's a little bit of a twist on imposter syndrome
It
too. So
is, yeah. There is definitely imposter syndrome in there.
yeah,
That's a common one, and, and
yeah,
and it is something that when I say why they get stuck is they get to a certain level, but
yeah,
then if they have imposter syndrome, so they don't feel good enough, or they feel like once I get to that level of success, will I be able to keep it? What if they
yeah.
start to have these lack limiting, fearful thoughts, and then they hold themselves back. They stop themselves. They sabotage so often. And so, one of the things to notice, I would say, when someone is successful and they start to sabotage their own success or they start to have imposter syndrome, is
Yeah.
to just notice I'm having these feelings and these feelings are normal. These feelings don't mean that it's bad and I should retract and go backwards.
Right.
Because what happens is most people have those feelings and they're like just about to break through, and they're like, "Oh, this is so scary. What if I what all the whatever fears they have? Everyone's kind of different, but those fears, they kind of hit a wall and they bounce backwards and say, "Ooh, thank goodness! Oh my gosh, thank goodness I didn't go any further. That was scary. I
Yeah.
almost had a breakthrough."
Now, do they need to justify any of that to themselves, or go, "Hey, I got here on merit, on blood, sweat, and tears. I absolutely deserve what I have." Do you have to reinforce yourself or build those back in when it happens, or what's the technique that best makes sense in those situations?
Yes, that can be helpful. And if you
Okay.
have someone else, it can help if they have someone else in their life
Okay.
that they respect, not just a parent. That's also nice. But if they have
Okay.
another person who's maybe even a little further ahead of them, or a peer, or someone, it's not. This is not required.
Okay.
This is what people find easier because
Right.
you don't need someone else to tell you how amazing you are. You're right. Your little
Right.
granddaughter knows I'm a
Yeah.
queen and I
Yeah.
know it. You don't
Yeah.
need
Exactly.
someone else to tell you that as an adult, especially when you're having fear, worry, or doubt, or starting to have imposter syndrome, sometimes having validation from someone else can be a tool.
And not necessarily a spouse, right? Because again,
Yeah.
they love you because they love you, and but a mentor,
Mhm.
essentially having those meetings with a mentor and someone who, like you said, has already walked that walk. Especially if we're talking about business or entrepreneurs and stuff like that, having a community of that would be great to kind of help reinforce you're killing it.
And also, if you go to someone who's already done what you want to do, so like a mentor, someone who's a little
Yeah,
ahead of you in the pathway that you're going down, and
right.
you ask them, "Do you think it's possible?" They're going to say, "I know it's possible.
Yeah,
I did it, and here's how I did it, and you can do it too."
yeah,
Right? So that's why. So sometimes having someone ahead of you is one of the tools that people can leverage to to overcome that, because your own inner self-talk is it's challenging to overcome.
Yeah, it is. And because you're trying to convince yourself something that you've already convinced yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like having a conversation with yourself, which is just a whole nother level.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I definitely see that. And what's interesting is I'm thinking from a subconscious level, if you have someone ahead of you and you see the path at which they took, it's pretty easy to just get into that same path and go, I'm going to follow that. Like, it's obvious, like it's so much easier to see ahead of you when someone else has walked it already. When it's dark out there and you don't see anything in front of you, yeah, I get that. But yeah, if you can have a mentor, that's absolutely the way to go. So,
yeah,
very cool. So let's shift into open mindfulness. I think this is an interesting piece of it. You mentioned trusting intuition instead of resisting it. How did you learn to trust that inner voice?
So this ties back into fear and desire.
Okay.
Right? When someone has a strong desire for a change in their life, for something, for an opportunity, the way to trust your intuition is to know really who you really are, like to really know who you are at the depths of your soul, and to know that you'll be okay even if you fall down, or when you fall down, let's just say.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So one of the reasons that people don't, like, they know, let's say they have a goal and they know where they want to go. Let's say they have, and let's say they even have a mentor and they've seen it, they've seen that it's possible now. So like, I have a goal, I know that it's possible. It's their paradigms that hold them where they are, all the subconscious patterns and programs. And one of those is their belief of if they're good enough, or if I fall down, am I going to get back up? Because if they don't, and it's hard to trust your intuition when you get a nudge and it says, go this way, invest this money, take this business trip, go. You have to make sure it's aligned with your values, right? And safe and ethical, and aligned with, certain, whatever your family, any other values that you have. Your true intuition wouldn't guide you away from that anyways. But it's a risk to the unknown. So you have to trust that the dots are going to connect, that you trust that I don't know why my intuition is guiding me this way, but I trust myself that if I fall down, I'll get back up. That's one of the biggest fears, is because when your intuition's not logical, it's not going to take this step and then go A to B, C to D. Like it's going to be like pivot this way, and it's totally ridiculous. Like where you're like, quit your job and just give your notice today, and I have nothing behind me to back up.
And nothing going on. And honestly, if you'd asked me when I was doing that, oh, by the way, you're going to be a podcaster in like, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 months, 8 months, however long down the road, I'd have been like, podcast? I don't even like talking to people. Which is not absolutely true. I do love talking with people, but it's just, my point is like, it's just so far fetched to think that little nudge and that little voice that was telling me, this is the direction you need to go, and you're going to be so much happier, and you're going to have so much more joy doing it that way.
Yeah. So I think it's just like, there's many ways, and to hear your intuition, to listen, you have to, in order to hear a higher thought, you have to stop your own thoughts for long enough. So you've already described that you notice you have these moments of silence and I'm thinking of nothing. That's a perfect time for intuition to pop in and be like, go this way. But if you don't stop your thoughts ever, and you're just on the go constantly from morning till night, sometimes it'll wake you up in the middle of the night. But allowing yourself to stop your thoughts for long enough to be able to be open to receive, to hear it. And I often just suggest try it with little things. If you get a little nudge, just take a little step so you can start to prove to yourself, okay, I can trust this. I can trust when my intuition guides me. I can trust that it's going to be right 9.9 times out of 10. And it's probably right 10 times out of 10. But even if you take a step and it doesn't go the way you expected it to go, you can still say, well,
and you might not interpret it the way you thought you did, but it is still that trusting in it is so key. Like just trusting, okay, I'm gonna follow this instead of ignoring it. I think that's the first.
And you know what, leaders, there's an article it was Albert Ian Gray was his name. He wrote an article called The Common Denominator of Success. And in it, he wrote this many, many years ago. And he said, the common denominator of success for any man or woman who has ever been successful lies in the fact that they've made the habit of doing the things that unsuccessful people don't like to do. So that's his language. I don't know if I want to call it successful or unsuccessful people, that's labeling, but he said they've made the habit of doing things that maybe when you ask what do unsuccessful people not like to do, it's like the same things that anyone else doesn't like to do. Follow uncomfortable pings or nudges that are pulling you in a direction that it's and
having an open-mindedness in a lot of ways, because that's really what we're talking about, is you have to have an open-mindedness
to build habit. And one of the habits I wanted to connect with decision and intuition. One of the habits is following your intuition, and the other one is really the ability to make decisions quickly and stick to them. So you have to trust yourself, because this is the challenge with people a lot of times, is they'll make a decision and then they'll waffle back and forth. Should I, shouldn't I, but can I still get out of this? Like, you just got to trust yourself and make those decisions quickly. And then
execute. Because again, to your point, like if you make the decision and then you turn around and start waffling on it or halfway execute it, you get half results. So, and then I tried to follow it, but it didn't really work. Well, because you didn't execute, you didn't actually follow through. Okay, good. Now, so we're at that part where I hit you with some rapid fire questions.
Awesome.
So here's the first one. So what's one belief you had to unlearn to become who you are today?
I had to unlearn that money doesn't grow on trees. Money does grow on trees, and it comes in abundance, and it doesn't come through my job. It comes through a much higher source than that. It just flows through my job. And so if I lose that job, I can get it another way.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Yeah. Because I get that. So what's the best advice you've ever received?
You know what? The best advice I received, especially when I worked in corporate from a leader of mine, he said to give your employees or peers, give others more of their share of the credit when things go well and less of their share of the blame when things go badly. So I will always take extra responsibility, and I will never throw an employee under the bus and say, my gosh, I can't believe she did that thing. Even if she did, I will take some of that blame, and it's my responsibility anyways and just that allows for family members, team members to feel like they can take risks, they can step up, they're willing to do their best. That stuck. That I heard that it was probably 20 years ago he told me that, and that
is so much great advice. That is really that. It's funny because that's me that's me in leadership. Is I live by that book that I read one long time ago. 100% ownership. It's by the author that also wrote the book by David Goggins. But again, it's a great book, great read. Basically own it. Just own it. As a leader, you need to own it. So, but again, give the credit where credit is. Give the credit to the team, because honestly, you wouldn't be able to do it without them.
Really?
The success is absolutely with them.
I actually wrote about this was a boss of mine from about 20 years ago, something like that, maybe less than that. I wrote about him in my book because it was a pivotal moment where he influenced how I lead and how I show up and how I can help other people feel more confidence and joy. And it's so amazing to give someone more of their share of the credit and to say, she did such an amazing job here. I'm so proud of her, and I'm so grateful. And even if I knew I played a role in it to make, I don't need the credit. Like it's such a powerful way of.
And it's just a great leadership habit to have. Like there's no downside to it.
Yeah,
absolutely is only upside.
You just have to manage your own ego. That's the challenge.
Yeah, that's the challenge.
Is if your ego is like, oh, I don't want other people to think I made the mistake, and I want to make sure I get the credit. And that's not who you really are. That's just your ego. So if you put that aside for a bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. What habit has had the biggest impact on your life?
I would say mornings. First thing in the morning, you can control. We talked about subconscious today. You get to choose which way are you going to go through the day on the best case scenario or the worst case scenario. Your subconscious mind just comes into consciousness first thing in the morning. So I will do usually a 10-minute, I do a guided meditation or gratitude. And I will say, and I learned this recently from someone else. And he said, he just wakes up and looks outside and says, I live in paradise. So the first 15, 20 minutes, literally right when waking up, put positivity. Do not go into negative spiral. Don't check texts and emails. You could check those in half an hour if you really must.
Yeah.
But the first thing in the morning, I protect that time, and I will feel the difference if I miss it. And I'm like, why do I feel a little off today? I'm like, oh my goodness, I forgot to do my gratitude and meditation or something.
Yeah.
Like I forgot to put positivity in before I.
So I actually wake up first thing. I want my first win. I want it, and I get up and I make the bed.
Mm-hmm.
Done. Check.
Yep.
Successfully completed something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is, and then you feel so good coming back.
Yeah.
At the end of the day too.
Yeah. It's wins on both sides. But yeah, you're like, bed's made. Check that off. One thing accomplished. And it's an easy one.
Yeah.
But it's at that pivotal time in the morning when things are starting to roll and you're like getting things going. So yeah. And that's my habit. Okay, last one. What's one myth about success people need to stop believing?
A myth about success that people need to stop believing is that it's linear. You will not go straight up. Failure is not the opposite of success. Failure is part of success. You have to know that you can't shoot and aim and shoot and hit the target 100% of the time on the first try. You're going to miss. You're going to miss many times. And it's the willingness to redefine failure and not see when something doesn't work, you're not a failure. The thing failed, but you're not a failure. That's the way to get to, because you cannot get to success without failure. And so you have to not see failure as a bad thing. Failure is just
you found 100 different ways how not to hit the target.
Yeah.
So.
It's a feeling. That is an emotion. Because if you can redefine failure and say, oh, that kind of sucked and that, I didn't like that, but I can get back up same day or tomorrow. Like I'll dwell in it for a second, and how quickly can you get back up emotionally from something that you feel didn't work? That's the key.
Yes. So if someone's listening right now and feels the internal pull toward a different life, but they're scared to trust it, what would you tell them?
I would say my first thought right now is which might seem unrelated, but it is related, is to actually practice gratitude. If you're feeling the pull and you're in fear and worry and doubt, stop and say, what are 3 things that I can feel appreciation for right now? I can feel appreciation for technology. I can feel appreciation for a beautiful sunshine. I can feel appreciation for my family, or the way my son was giggling this morning and it was so cute. Like, get out of the emotion of whatever is causing the unknown or the discomfort. Because when you're in the state of gratitude and you believe that there's enough, I have enough, I am enough, then I'm like, okay, maybe I could start to see it being possible. Because so gratitude is the vehicle to allowing you to see.
So gratitude is the cracking of the door of open-mindedness.
100%. Yeah.
Oh, good. That's good to know. All right. So where can people connect with you, learn more about your work, or grab a copy of Audacious Joy?
For sure. I would say NicoleKernahan.com. They go to my website, Nicole, and it's NicoleKernahan.com. There are links to my book there, Audacious Joy. I also have a 7-day free Power of Change, and we do have some tools in there to help program the subconscious. So it teaches a little bit about how to change yourself. I have a free abundance journal that you can download. So that would be a great place. And then, of course, social media. I share lots of little videos and clips and nuggets in Facebook, Instagram. So I'd love to see you there too.
Yeah, and LinkedIn and all that fun stuff. So you definitely connect that way. So awesome. Nicole, it was really a pleasure to have you on. And man, you speak such great wisdom out there. So thank you again for being on my show and being a guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to I'm Up, He Sees Me, I'm Down. Follow the show for more conversations on leadership, faith, and resilience. Sponsored by Alamo Tech and Mission Solution Partners.